You're at the Church of Rock radio show with Reverend Derek Moody and Sister Tracy. Sunday nights on KSKQ Radio.
Whatever happened to Eddie? I'm the kid from Mockingbird Lane. Whatever happened to Eddie? Did I freak or go insane? You might wonder why I have a dragon for a pet. Well, he's just there to keep me company on the set. Whatever happened to Eddie? I'm the kid with the mixed up brain. Whatever happened to Eddie? Yes, I'm the kid with the pointed ears. Whatever happened to Eddie? Well, after all these many years, if you dare peek through my shaded window screen, you turn so white that seems so much green. Whatever happened to Eddie? Well, I'm the kid from Mockingbird Lane. Whatever happened to Eddie? I got up and split from school. Whatever happened to Eddie? But I always kept my cool. I spent my nights just howling at the moon or hanging out in a creepy black lagoon. Whatever happened to Eddie?
You are at the Church of Rock and KSKQ. That song you just heard is a rarity, man. It was actually Butch Patrick himself who played Eddie Munster, and we'll talk to him more when he calls in just a couple of minutes about that song. And it's pretty hard to get. I'm sure it's on eBay or something like that, but who knows, man. Yeah, we have some great rock. I think the phone's ringing now. Sister Tracy, why don't you do that Diana's read, and I'll get the phone.
I will absolutely do that. Diana's Records in Ashland is proud to support KSKQ Community Radio. Diana's Records, formerly CD or Not CD, has been located in Ashland since 1986. Diana's offers a selection of new and used LPs, CDs, and cassettes, and music and movies on DVD. You'll also discover an array of rock, math, and science t-shirts, posters, mugs, collectible lunchboxes, and so much more. Diana's Records is open 7 days a week at 343 East Main Street in downtown Ashland. For more information, call 541-488-0066. KSKQ thanks Diana's Records and listeners like you for supporting community radio.
You are at the Almighty Church of Rock, and as promised, we have Butch Patrick, a big favorite of our show from the old days of the Munsters TV show, and a lot more. Not just that. We're going to bring him on the line, and Sister Tracy, we're going to talk to Butch. And
Awesome.
Butch, are you there tonight?
I am here tonight.
Boy, you're in the central time zone where I hear it might be snowing, and it's also later, so thank you.
Yeah, it's a huge blizzard going on, but no worries. Yeah, everything's good.
What state are you calling from?
I'm right outside of Chicago.
Okay,
Illinois.
yeah. We're originally, this show started in Peoria.
Well, we're not too far away.
Yeah, we're over in Ashland, Oregon now, but a lot of friends in Illinois are tuned in right now, and they're like, wow, we are getting the snow. So
It's that time of year, so
Yeah.
you guys are used to this. So if you've been in the Chicago area very long, then it's kind of like just another day for this time of year.
right. By the way, Sister Tracy, this is Butch Patrick, and vice versa.
Nice to meet
Hey,
you, Butch.
Tracy.
Hey, Butch, I met you back in Milwaukee back in around 1988, and you were a heavy metal music promoter. Are you still doing that kind of thing today?
No, let me see. We would have met back then. Was that at the theater in the morning with all the college kids and WKTI?
Well,
No, that wouldn't have been. That was Milwaukee.
yeah, Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the late 80s.
Okay, that would have been. No, I was never really a heavy metal music promoter. I was in the kind of dabbling in the music business back then. After we did whatever happened to Eddie with the video that went on to MTV that created the Basement Tapes.
Oh, okay. I always thought you were a promoter for some reason. I don't know why I thought that.
No, I promote myself.
Yeah, you do. Well, you do a good job at that. That's for sure.
Yeah, being the life. Yeah, thank you.
I was going to ask you more about that song, Whatever Happened to Eddie. I remember seeing the 7-inch back in the day, and I know it's collectible, but what was the official band called?
Eddie and the Munsters.
Okay, cool. What a great record, man. Did you guys do a full-length album or just a 7-inch record?
No, that was just a little. We wanted to do rock videos, and we didn't have any experience, so we decided to get some experience. What would be our first project? And I wrote Whatever Happened to Eddie, and then the producer Phil Cohn had a piece of a recording studio down in Long Beach, Sound Sorcery. So we just basically threw it together for $3,500. It had about 40 extras. We did 3 location shoots in one evening, and put the thing together for a few bucks. And we were the first unsigned act ever to be on MTV back in the early '80s when payola was still the name of the game to you pay for play. And from that concept, they created the Basement Tapes. They thought there might be a lot of other groups out there that were making their own videos that didn't have record deals, and so that's how it all came to be.
And what year was that? Did that song come out?
83.
83. And before I get into asking you, a few questions that you've probably heard a lot and all that, something real. I don't know if you were listening earlier, but we were interviewing Monty A. Melnick, who is the longtime tour manager for the Ramones. He was talking about one time the Ramones were hanging out with Phil Spector at Phil Spector's house in, I believe, in California. And I guess while they were hanging out, Grandpa Munster himself was there, Al Lewis. And they said he was quite the character. So Monty wanted me to ask you if you ever had any run-ins with the Ramones back in the day.
Well, what it was Al Lewis was there, and he was sitting on the couch with Ronnie Spector and
Phil Spector.
Phil Spector. Yeah, Phil Spector. And, like, the Ramones were kind of hanging out. And he's like, yeah, ask Butch if he knows anything about that'll be something. And I'm like, wow, that's just really random. Al Lewis and Phil Spector hanging out, with the Ramones at a recording studio. That's kind of like a dream, some kind of bizarre dream that you would have.
No, I didn't really have anything going on with them. Although it's funny you mentioned the Ramones, because I'm at a show here with I know Marky Ramone pretty well, but I didn't know any of the like Johnny or Dee or any of the others or Mickey. But here at the show, there's CJ and Richie Ramone.
Oh yeah, Richie's a good friend of ours, and he actually sang on my last record.
Yeah, so they're there at the same. They've been here at the same convention the last 3 days.
That's
pretty funny.
Oh, that's right. You know what? I saw that Richie had shared a picture on either Instagram or Facebook with you and CJ all together in the photo.
That's right.
It was a good photo. I was like, that is a great picture. It's 3 of my heroes, man,
Small world, huh?
Yeah, what a cool picture. And he was like excited too because he was a Munsters fan like we all were,
Yeah, CJ's buying a Wolf doll, so yeah, he's all excited that he's going to be getting his own Wolf.
No, wait a minute. He's not getting the original Wolf. He's
no,
right?
No, a Wolf doll. I manufacture aftermarket ones.
Really? Where does one go to get a Wolf doll?
Christmas is coming.
Well, this come around the $750. The last run I did 20 years ago, they were $1,500.
Oh, okay. Well, that's still it's a bargain, man.
Yeah, $750. It's very fair, and they're custom made one at a time. They're not mass produced by any way, shape, or form. And the guy that actually makes them is in Oregon, believe it or not.
Oh, an Oregon Wolf maker.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what. People could just get a hold of you if they wanted to pursue that.
Yeah, they just go to Munsters.com. Everything's there.
Awesome. Did you ever have a favorite cast member on the Munsters? I know you were a little kid, but was there a favorite person you liked the most?
Well, I like them all for different reasons, but Al Lewis I spent probably the most time with.
Grandpa Munster.
He seems like he would be just, I don't know. He just seems like he'd be cool, like the grandpa type, and just funny, and just kind of a cool cat.
Well, it was a combination of a couple things. Number one, Fred was really because he was either in makeup or he was in front of the camera. Where Al had a little bit of free time occasionally. Loved sports. Would toss him for his beer or baseball with me. And, he had that grandpa-grandson thing going, that carried over from the screen to behind the cameras. I had a crush on the first Marilyn Beverly Owen. She actually took me to, I like to consider to be my first date, where she came and picked me up and we went and saw Mary Poppins at the Grauman's Chinese Theater together when it first came out.
Wow.
So that was kind of cool. Yvonne DiCarlo was very nice as a TV mom because my mom was living at the East Coast. So the TV family was kind of like my really adopted family for a couple of years.
That's so neat. How old were you during the 2-year run?
11 and 12.
Nice. Those are good years. I remember being at 11 and 12 vividly, so I'm sure you've got some just like really vivid memories.
Oh, I do. It's funny because like when I finished my book, the Munster Memories book, the guy that was putting it together, the editor, said, "Now, what's your favorite memory, for the book?" And I said, my favorite memory wasn't being on the Munsters. My favorite memory, the Munsters was my job. I enjoyed it, but my favorite memory was having the Universal Studio back lot, or for that matter, the whole studio at my disposal to go explore whenever I had free time. And that's what I remember the most out of it, was all the great memories of going up and visiting my Uncle John supplying horses at the Virginian and wagon train, and going visiting Ernie Forknine and Tim Conway at the Lagoon for McHale's Navy, or checking out what Alfred Hitchcock was, doing over on his soundstage. That was the neat stuff.
Wow, what a trip, hanging out with Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That is very, very cool. I got to ask you, and I'm sure you've been asked this a lot, but whatever happened to the original Woof Woof doll?
He was left at the studio, and then when I was doing Ironside in 1971, the prop man came out and gave him to me. I took him home, and I didn't take very good care of him, and he kind of fell apart. And then I had him hanging in a noose in my bay window by the beach, so the sun beat on him and kind of messed him up. So I restored him and sold him to a guy that then he sold him to a guy in Indiana. But I've got the second doll that was made from the original. So what it is, we had the original, then the one that was made for this guy, he sold that back to me. But the original one is at an undisclosed museum, private collector in Indiana somewhere.
What a trip. That is so wild.
Yeah.
The history of Woof Woof.
Yeah.
Do you still get royalty checks for the Munsters reruns and things like that, or how does that work?
No, that ended after 10 reruns back in the 60s. The standard contract didn't have anything into perpetuity for anything like merchandising or reruns unless you had it written into your contract specifically, which most people did.
Yeah, it wasn't a standard thing you would do. It just curious, because I'm sure it's been a great springboard.
They fixed that clause in the early 70s, but it wasn't retroactive, and there was no way to fix it, even though you were a minor. There was, but believe me, I kind of entertained all the avenues of trying to fix that problem, but it was unfixable. Well,
at least you tried, man.
Yep. I have no complaints. I had a good time. I made good money, and the show's been really good to me. In the aftermarket, I tour around with the Munster Coach and Dracula tribute cars, and I make a pretty good living going around the country doing promotions and marketing for automotive events mostly. Here in Chicago, this particular event, the cars are in Florida. I'm here by myself, but I usually do automotive-related stuff.
Okay, and it's interesting to note for any Munsters fans out there that you appeared in every episode except for the pilot episode.
Yeah, that was Joan Marshall and Happy Durman were the mother and son. Happy Durman was playing the character. Anyway, they weren't happy with his portrayal. They wanted to bring in Yvonne DiCarlo to replace to replace Joan Marshall as Phoebe. They changed the character's name to Lily. And I screen tested with 2 other kids that they had been on a lot of callbacks. And I got lucky and just my first shot at it, they hired me.
Wow. Did you actually, since you were kind of a young man, did you actually watch the show and enjoy it? Or were you just kind of like, this is what I've already lived it? Did you actually watch it?
I didn't watch it very often. Occasionally, I kind of watch it now more so than I did it the first time. I didn't watch any of the stuff I did when I was a kid. I kind of was. Some people don't like that to themselves. I was one of those people.
I get it. I understand that. Yeah. It's interesting. When I was a kid, I always thought Eddie was just a little vampire, but I've been reading recently that Eddie was actually a werewolf with signs of being part vampire. Is that right?
Well, yeah, because his mom was his parents, right? half each or whatever?
Well, they had creative license there. They had me as a werewolf, mainly because we had 2 vampires and a Frankenstein, and we had a creature for Uncle Gil, and Uncle Lester was the Wolfman. So they made Eddie a werewolf because I would howl at the moon, and it just was all very creative. Creative license was entertained.
It was good fun.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool, man. It's also funny because Eddie used to sleep in a chest of drawers. That was so funny. Did you actually sleep in did they actually shut you in there when they were filming that, like in that drawer?
They did.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite rock and roll bands? I've always wanted to ask you that. Do you have any favorite rock bands?
Well, yeah, it sort of changed over the years. When I was younger, I'll tell you what, Alice Cooper. I've seen Alice when I was 16 years old, and I've seen him. We're friends now, so he's always been around. I've always enjoyed Alice Cooper. Early on, Jimi Hendrix was my first concert. I saw the first performance of Black Sabbath at the Whiskey A Go Go when they came to America in '71.
Wow.
70, I think it might have been. So there's been some milestones like that. I did the Monkees Christmas episode. I always did the Monkees. But back in the old days, I'll give you an example. My first 4 8-track tapes that I bought were The Doors, Blind Faith, Cheap Trick, and Hendrix Smash Hits. That's kind of where my musical taste lied, although I'm a huge Beatles fan as well.
Wow, you've got...
Now recently, AC/DC, a friend of mine's lighting director at AC/DC and Aerosmith, so I've been catching a lot of their shows. So yeah, I've been very lucky to have been, I'm good friends with Dee Snider, and so he's doing a lot of stuff. So I had Ace Frehley, I've become friends with him recently. So I'm really lucky. I've had a lot of Lita Ford's a good friend.
Yeah, she's been on the show a couple times. Lita's great.
Yeah, Lita's wonderful. Lita and Cherie, Cherie Curie.
We had her twin sister Marie on just a month ago.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's an interesting life. I've been very blessed. Being Eddie Munster has allowed me to befriend and become friends with a lot of people.
How cool! And you've got excellent taste in music, that's for sure.
I've seen a lot of concerts. I think the group I've seen the most, I saw Zeppelin like 21 times.
You saw Led Zeppelin 21 times?
Yeah, well, I would see them several times on each day. They go to the Forum. They'd have like 4 or 5 shows, and I go see them all.
And you were a pretty big partier back in the day, weren't you?
Well, yeah, I was very good at it.
Yeah, because
parties.
Well, the thing I'm kind of leading up to the sobriety thing because you're an inspiration to me, man. Because I'm on the path of sobriety, except for the cannabis thing. But when I read that you had gone down that path, it always inspires me. And it none of my business if you've been successful or anything, but that's cool if you have been.
Yeah, I just kind of I went into it for a curiosity situation and take a break, sort of evaluate what was going on, and I just kind of went into appease a few people. It wasn't an intervention or anything. It was an offering of a scholarship to go to this place called Oasis out in California. And I was in Philadelphia at the time, so I said, I'll go to California. I'll go in here for 30 days and see what it's all about. Kind of wrap my mind around it, and then I got this education. And the funny part about it was that he mentioned cannabis. But I thought I would never quit smoking weed. And when I went in, the knowledge and the education I got sort of just encompassed everything. So even though I went in mainly for booze and some other stuff, the weed got tossed in with the same thing. And here it is, legal as can be now with really good quality and dispensaries everywhere. And I'm not smoking it. The irony is just too great because it's crazy. It's one of those things I'm really happy without it, but it kind of cracks me up how things get the master plan can work out. You wind up being weed free, and here it is. If you like pot, this would be the perfect time to be smoking weed.
Well, how long you been sober, Butch?
A little over 8 years. 8 years was on the 21st of this month.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's inspiring because we have a lot of people that listen that, we're all human. We're all going through good and bad. And for those of you struggling, hey, man, Butch did it. We've done it. Do your best and try to...
I did it, yeah. I did it. And I did it at 57 years old. So I was partying for 41 years heavily. So it's never too late. And it's always addressable. And, it's like... for the longest time, I always thought, my best years were like behind me. And once I kind of got sober and got my mind wrapped around you're right where you're supposed to be, then your whole life is not a mistake. It's right where you're where you're at by a master plan, and once you have that, then you quit looking behind you and you start looking forward, and that's the biggest key.
Wow, that was really well said, man. Thank you for that.
No problem.
I'm a big fan of the Munster Go Home film from 1966. Do you have any memories from that movie?
Yeah, my wife makes me watch it all the time, and I'm tired of it.
That was the year of my birth.
Yeah, the Munster Go Home was made actually to introduce the world to the TV series, so they could sell syndication packages.
Oh.
And I enjoyed the movie very much. I really loved Terry Thomas and the English Munsters, Hermione Gingold. They were hilarious. The road race was a lot of fun because I was a car guy and there was a lot of cool cars in it. But I think it's funny, Robert Pine was the guy who was Marilyn's love interest and who was on Chips as a sergeant.
Yeah.
He was just at a show with Eric and Larry Wilcox, the three Chip guys, and we were talking about him being on Munster Go Home, and his son's just killing it as an actor, Chris Pine. So it's interesting to see the family doing well, and Chris doing so well, and Robert, really nice guys, and Eric and Larry, nice guys. So it's an interesting circuit when you go out and you do some personal appearance conventions of all the people that you grew up with personally, but you also meet the people that you never met until after the fact on a personal appearance circuit.
Yeah, that's pretty unique, and a lot of people don't have that opportunity, so that's pretty cool, man. What a fun life.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A lot of folks,
very lucky.
a lot of guys and girls might not know, but I was a big fan of Saturday morning TV as a kid in the 70s, and you also played Mark on the ABC Saturday morning series Lidsville from like 71 to 1973.
Yeah, Sid and Marty Croft owned Saturday Morning, and Lidsville was their third show after Puffin' Stuff and the Bugaloos. Charles Nelson Raleigh, myself, and Billy Hayes. It's summer of 71 out of Paramount, knocking out 16 or 17 episodes. I think it was 16 episodes. And then they would rerun them 7 times, or 17 episodes, and they rerun them 6 times. I can't remember which it was. I think it was 6 times. 17 episodes, 6 reruns each. And it would encompass 2 years, and then after ABC aired, NBC picked it up, and they aired it for 2 years. So it was actually on for 4 years, solid. Yeah, that was interesting. I didn't really like doing it at the time, but in hindsight, I'm really happy I did.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. I liked Lidsville. That was a trippy show. So was HR Puffin' Stuff. I loved it.
They were all trippy. They were all psychedelic-induced shows that Sid would get some hallucinogenics and then come up with the idea, and then Marty would pretty much produce them. And then, lo and behold, I never knew there was a third Croft brother until I looked at my check. It was signed by a guy named Harry Croft.
Wow. Wow.
Who I don't know who the hell he was. Maybe it was a fictitious name, but I go, this is not Sid's, it's not Sid or Marty's autograph on my check. Wow.
So the psychedelic thing, the hallucinogenic story is true?
Well, H&R Puffin' Stuff. So there's a lot of titles that could have been used. And Lidsville, we all know where Lid is, so you figure it out. They could have called it Hat World or Fedora Junction, but they chose Lidsville, and H&R Hash and Reaper Puffin' Stuff. I gotta think. I'm pretty sure it was all psychedelic. But then the Bugaloos, if I remember correctly, they had the land of the Reds and the Whites.
Interesting.
So you go figure.
I used to love Billy Hayes as Witchy Poo on HR Puffin' Stuff. She was so awesome, man.
Yeah, one of my favorite episodes of Lidsville was an episode called "Have I Got a Girl for Hoodoo?" And we brought in Hoodoo was in a dating service, and he got Witchy Poo sent a picture of herself as beautiful, and Charles Nelson Riley used a picture of Sid Croft as a Mr. Beach Muscle guy. And then during the episode, I dressed up in drag as Mae West to win Hoodoo back, and she was on the show as Witchy Poo. It was very cute.
Awesome.
She was doing double duty. She was Genie and Witchy Poo.
Yeah, she was a great comedic actress. What do you got going these days? What's happening right now? I know you said you're doing a lot of the car events and things like that. Is that pretty much what you do these days?
We do the cars, yeah. We do the travel on the road. I put about 60,000 miles a year on the road right now with my truck and my trailer, getting the cars all over the country. My wife does the booking, and she hands the merch table and the fan group. But we're leaning towards a couple new things. We want to start doing some. There's going to be a live stream. Back in the 80s, Al Lewis did a thing called Super Scary Saturday for TBS on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
where he was hosting movies for like mostly Godzilla movies. Well, the same guy that produced that for CBS and Turner is up in Vermont, and he wants to do a remake of something similar, but we're going to call it Eddie's Monsters Movie Mausoleum, where we're basically hosting crummy movies, making fun of them, something like Mystery Science Theater and Elvira, sort of cross. But we're going to have a guest star, a guest horror host on the show every week because I'm not really Al Lewis, so I can't really carry the show like Grandpa, and I don't want to, but I want to share a show where I've inherited a coffin factory from the Munster overtones, so it's like Gateman, Goodberry, and Graves, and then my coffin salesmen around the country are the horror hosts in various regions that come on the show to help me have some fun with the B movies that we're showing. So that's going to be fun, and then we're also going to work on a thing where, as I travel around midweek, I'd like to start interviewing some interesting folks around the country, doing Americana, boots on the ground type of thing, of veterans and interesting things in small towns and little things like that we can do a live stream as well from our motorhome or truck as we're traveling from point A to point B.
How creative. You guys got it going on. You really do some thinking, that's for sure. Well, you know,
there's another thing there's another possibility of a real series, but it's potentially with Freak though. A friend of mine just got a deal with Paramount and Dr. Phil Productions and Steven Spielberg, and I wanted to do a show where I hire Lou Ferrigno to be my personal trainer, and the big green guy, the little green guy.
Yeah.
So from that idea, they've got some interesting twists they're putting on it, and they seem to like the idea. So there may be a chance of someone like a twins with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger with me and Lou.
That's genius.
So
that'd be pretty funny.
So I have a song for you, Butch. I was just doing a little bit of reading, and I realized that it was kind of your sister who, in a way, encouraged you or to go into acting or whatever when you were young. Like, had you show up at an audition or something like that? And
well, what happened was my sister was 2 years old, and they were looking at her to do some photos to impress her father. This guy wanted to be mayor, and he wanted to get on her dad's good side. So he thought, well, what better way to do that to get his darling little daughter to the movies? And I went along for the ride at the age of 6. And when they were done with her, they took a couple pictures of me, and the gentleman put it in the window of his Hollywood studio just for his own purposes, nothing to do with Hollywood. I mean, nothing to do with the professional business, just a great photo that he liked. And a Hollywood producer and the director were walking by and noticed it, spotted it. They were casting a movie, and they tracked me down from that. So yeah, my sister had something to do with it, but at 2 years old, it wasn't really
right.
It was more of they were looking at her, and I happened to be in the area at the time.
It's kind of strange how those little synchronicities and coincidences, But anyway, the question I usually ask of people we have on, if you hadn't went into, say, the arts or into music,
or movies,
the arts,
TV,
what do you think that Butch Patrick would have grown up to be? What do you think that you would be interested in or your career would be today? I know that's a tough question to ask.
I would have been an architect.
Great answer.
I would have been an architect, yeah, because I was very good at drafting, and I had already designed houses and stuff by the time I was in the 8th grade.
And
had I not gotten into the movie business, I'm sure I would have probably wound up being an architect.
That's a great answer. That I think that would be third on my list after working, maybe being a veterinarian. I think architecture would be right there. It's such an interesting field. So, that's cool. I'm really glad to hear you say that.
Well, it's funny. After when I was in the business, so I was 18, 19, what I should have done. I mean, we all have what woulda, coulda, shoulda. But thinking about the industry, I didn't want to be a director. That's more work than acting. It's like I wanted to find something that would be interesting and not all the responsibilities. I should have become a location scout because that's a really cool job. You get to go travel around, read a script, you find out where you can go find what they need without having to build a set, talk to the mayor of a town, you make arrangements for permits, you make arrangements for security. That's an interesting, cool, unique niche job that I probably would have been good at.
Yeah, and you get to see all the cool places around.
Well, yeah, and there's a very interesting dynamic there because you have to understand scripts, so you get that from acting. I like to travel. I've been well traveled by the time I was a little kid with my grandmother, so I understood that. and then you got to understand the basic logistics of what can be done and can't be done. What's doable and what's not doable, and all those things come into play. So it takes about 7 or 8 different factions and talents to coordinate that kind of a deal. But it would have been a great job had I thought of it.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm too busy partying.
And you get paid to do all that stuff for free, right? Like traveling and all that.
That's right.
Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Well, we thank you so much, Butch, for calling in this evening. Like, it's
Not a problem.
we're huge fans, and we have been forever. And it's just great to know that you're still out there, still doing your thing. And anytime that you want to call the Church of Rock and do another interview, we would be more than happy to have you back.
And anybody out there, like at the holiday season, like I said, for the shoes and anybody, those variety of shoes, there's a lot of help out there. Seek it out, find it, ask for help. Don't be afraid. And Munsters.com will lead you to anything that I've got going on. The official Munsters fan group. I do not necessarily hands-on sponsor people, but I do steer a lot of people into places to seek help if anybody needs any help. So make myself available for those.
Well, I know the doll is on my Christmas list now. So.
All righty.
Thank you.
Problem.
Thank you to your wife for helping set this up too, Butch, okay?
Hey, wife, thank you. She just said thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. Blessings to you both, and best of luck.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
You too. Thanks, Butch. Wow, what a great guy. What a cool interview.
Yeah, fun.
That was fun, man.
Okay.
Butch Patrick, you're listening to KSKQ Radio. That was an interview with Butch Patrick, who played Eddie Munster on the Munsters TV show, and so much more. And he was kind enough to give us about a half an hour of his time. And I tell you, I got to say, KSKQ 89.5 FM Ashland, Oregon, and KSKQ translator K231CW 94.1 FM Medford, Oregon.